Hi guys, so this is Mrs. Ross with another lesson for the week over telling time. Our focus for this lesson will be I can read and write time to the nearest hour and a half using analog and digital clocks. Math 1.7a. The materials you'll need for today's lesson is simply a notebook and a pencil. Look at the clock below. Answer the following questions on a piece of paper using the sentence stem. When telling time, what does the shorthand and the longhand tell you? The shorthand tells the hour and the longhand tells the minutes. What time is shown on the clock? The time is 9 o'clock. Read the time on each clock. Write the same time on each digital clock. So here we see that our minute hand is pointing at the 12. Anytime your minute hand is directly straight above pointing upwards at the 12, that means it's at o'clock, which would be 00. Our hour hand here is pointing at the 3. So this clock would say 3 o'clock. So 300. Our next clock, we have our minute hands pointing straight up at the 12, so we know it's o'clock again. Our hour hand is pointing at the 6. So this clock's time would read 6 o'clock. Our last clock, our minute hand is at the 12 again, so we know it's o'clock. Our hour hand is pointing directly at the 8. So this clock's time would read 8 o'clock. Right. Look at the clocks below. We have an analog clock as well as a digital clock. Our hour hands are here. The shorthand is our hour hand, which tells the first digit on a digital clock. Our long hand is pointing at the 6, which is a half hour. Half of an hour is 30 minutes. So here, the time shown on both clocks is 4:30. Read each time, draw the hour hand and the minute hand on each clock to show the time. So our first time with our digital time says 11:30. So since it has 30 minutes, we know the hour hand, the minute hand will not be at the 12. 30 minutes is pointing down at the 6. And that means our hour is going to be at 11, but it will not be directly on 11 because it's halfway through 11 o'clock. So our hour hand will be in between the 11 and the 12, and our minute hand will be pointing directly down at the 6. So now this analog clock reads the same time as 11:30. Our next time for our digital time says 1:30. Again, we know 30 minutes is half past, so that minute hand will be at the 6. And we have to look at our hour is at 1 o'clock, so we know it'll be halfway between the 1 and the 2, with our minute hand being right at the 6. The last clock says 4:30. Again, 30 minutes is halfway, so we know our hour hand will be halfway between past 4, which is in between 4 and 5, with our minute hand being directly down at the 6. So now both clocks say 4:30. All right, now we're going to use an analog clock to estimate time to the closest hour and a half hour. So here we have Noah went to soccer practice at the time shown on the clock below. At about what time did Noah go to soccer practice? So you have a think aloud. Says, I know that Noah went to practice on the clock between 2 o'clock and 2:30. I can estimate that Noah went to practice around 2:30 because the minute hand is closest to the 6. So we know our hour hand is in between the 2 and the 3. He went to practice close to 2:30 because our minute hand is closer to the 6 than it is to the 12. So on this page, we're going to estimate each time shown on the clock to the nearest hour or half hour. So we look at clock number 1. We have our hour hand is at the 8. Our minute hand is at the 4. So if our minute hand is here at the 4, is it closer to the 6 or is it closer to the 12? It would actually be closer to the 12. So it's going to be closer to the half hour. So this clock, to estimate this time, it will be closer to 8:30. On our second clock, we have our hour hand is pointing at the 12. Our minute hand is pointing at the 1. This minute hand, is it closer to the 6 or is it closer to the 12? It will be closer to the 12, meaning that this clock is nearest to 12 o'clock. The last clock we have our hour hand in between the 4 and the 5, and the minute hand pointing at the 1. So is the 1 closer to the 12 for o'clock, or is it closer to the 6 for 30? It's closer to the 12, so this time will be closer to 4 o'clock. All right. So take some time, look at the clocks around your house, and see if you can guess their correct time. Thank you. Have a great week.